Welcome, and thank you for joining us today on the Leadership Café, where we talk to extraordinary people leading remarkable businesses. We're your host. I'm Richard Citron.
And I'm Michael Couch. You know, in times like we're all experiencing here in 2020, we found it very enlightening to be able to turn to some of our finest leaders in our region and to find out how they're handling all this, how they're directing their businesses, how they're leading their teams and employees, and also how they're trying to contribute to our communities to just try to help make things, everything run just a little bit better. So this has been very enlightening, as we've said, talking with a range of leaders that we've had the opportunity to speak with on the Leadership Cafe.
Especially in 2020. And before we get too far along, we want to thank Vaco, our sponsor, a global talent solutions company. We are grateful for their support of the Leadership Cafe. And today we're very excited to have with us our special guest, Brenda Nevidjon, of the Oncology Nursing Society, which is a professional organization of close to 40,000 oncology nurses, these incredibly important and essential workers who provide care to so many people, so many folks who are dealing with cancer diagnosis. Brenda, thank you for joining us today on the Leadership Cafe. How are you?
I'm great this morning. I hope the two of you are as well.
And we're talking to you. You're in Durham, North Carolina, home of Duke University, where you went to school and taught for many years.
That's true. I am in Durham. We are working remotely now. Our office is closed.
Very good.
Following the Pennsylvania guidelines.
Great.
Well, thank you for your care and concern. I'm glad that's working out. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your leadership background, and a little more about ONS.
Well, I'd like to start with ONS because ONS has been a very integral part to my whole leadership journey. ONS was founded in 1975 and has always had Pittsburgh as its headquarters city. We are now we've been many locations in the Pittsburgh area, our office, but our headquarters now is up in the RIDC Park out near the Robinson area. We own our own building. We had a very futuristic thinking CEO, our founding CEO, a Pittsburgher, and the board who looked to the future and developed our building, and we're very, very proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
So right now the building's pretty empty. We have a couple of other corporations that do lease space from us, and like ONS, they have very limited staff in the office as well. I was there last week. I go up once a month or every 6 weeks, so I can just, one, go to my apartment, and two, just be in the office, work from my office safely. So it feels very different these days, but it's the right thing that businesses are doing to be very cautious in terms of the workforce they're bringing back in. So ONS, as I said, started in 1975. I became a member in 1977. So as I said, ONS has been very much a part of my journey in my career.
Sure.
You know, I was thinking in terms of how did I end up where I have ended up? And, you know, I set down a path early in my career to be a clinical psychologist after nursing, to build on my nursing, to be a clinical psychologist, and had done a master's degree in psych and mental health nursing, and then was going to go on for a PhD. But Duke was one of the original comprehensive cancer centers. And so as the building was being constructed, I was approached to be the head nurse, that's what we called nurse managers in the days, to open up the inpatient cancer research unit. And that changed my course. And that took me down a path of various leadership positions, executive level positions, and have had those kind of positions on the West Coast, out in Seattle. I also was in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, for a period of years, and have just valued very much the support that ONS has given me as a member. And then I volunteered a lot in different capacities. And then as you mentioned, I taught at the School of Nursing at Duke right before coming to ONS. I was teaching leadership, the master's program. And this opportunity came, and it was the right timing and a way for me to even give back to an organization that I have valued so much in my career, and the work we did in ONS. So that's how I ended up at ONS. Yes.
Yeah, and I was impressed to see the 40,000 international members.
Yes, we have some international members. We represent, though, just to also set a bigger context, there are about 100,000 oncology nurses in the United States. So when we advocate in Washington, we are advocating on behalf of oncology nursing and the patients they serve. So we certainly value extremely our almost 40,000 members. And we represent them, but we also like to share that, particularly with elected officials, that the scope is that nursing population and the patients that they serve.
Right. Well, that has to be the largest professional association in Pittsburgh, I would believe. At 100,000. Yeah. Very
so
impressive.
Healthcare has been particularly challenged during the period of the virus. I know some health, voluntary care procedures, have been waived during the early stage of COVID. I don't imagine that oncology services were. And what kinds of challenges has the association seen on behalf of nurses, and what kinds of pivoting did you guys have to do to adjust?
Well, what I'd like to share first is what our members experienced, and then I'll talk about the association.
Yeah.
We heard very quickly that, first of all, as we all saw, any non-essential care almost went to zero in organizations. That became a real challenge of decision making in cancer programs, and whether they were the comprehensive cancer centers, whether they were community-based programs, what defines essential services? And so there were many decisions being made that our members were obviously integral to, of patients who perhaps they themselves were fearful to come in, or the decision on the provider side was, we're going to go from a 3-week treatment plan, you coming in every 3 weeks. Maybe we're going to make it 4 weeks, bring you in a little bit less, still give you the same treatment. The radiation therapy treatments are slightly different, though, because those are daily treatments. And so obviously protective procedures will put in place in terms of how to bring patients in. An area that we really saw be impacted, though, was the whole screening early detection area. And certainly there are concerns that the delay in screening, and even today, as organizations are recruiting their patients back for their routine screenings and saying we have safety protocols, people are delaying and still concerned in terms of going into facilities. So the long-term impact of that, we won't know for a while. If with people perhaps not having their routine mammogram or a colonoscopy, or other preventative kinds of interventions, whether we'll start to see later diagnosis of cancer, and our members are certainly concerned of that. So where we pivoted was quickly adapting our standards of practice to advise our members in terms of what was going on, because we have set the standard for oncology nursing practice in this country, and organizations apply those standards and guidelines in their practice. But there were things that had to be adapted, and I'll just mention one as an example. When nurses are administering chemotherapy to patients, they wear protective equipment. They wear gloves, they wear masks, they have gowns. And we know from the headlines what was going on in terms of shortages and all. So organizations had to quickly make some decisions. And so we pivoted very quickly to say, okay, these are our standards. This is an extraordinary situation. Here's what we think you can do in this situation. Here is what we're advising. And that was not only helpful to our U.S. members, but we heard from international nurses that it was also helpful for them in their country. So that was a very quick response, and that was to the credit of our clinical team. We have a number of nurses in the organization, and our clinical team got right on that. The other major pivot that we had to make, which is exactly what many member associations, professional associations had to do, was canceling our national meeting. Our meeting was scheduled for the end of April, beginning of May. We had to cancel that. San Antonio was not able to host us. And we then quickly, again, staff and volunteers took that meeting into the virtual realm and were able to have that meeting in September in a virtual delivery. And we had over 4,000 nurses register and attend that virtual meeting. So kudos and applause to our staff and our volunteer leaders who worked on that program. So, a couple of big pivots for us.
Yeah. Amazing how things were able to move so quickly. Other times it might take 3 months or 6 months to make those decisions. Now we're making them in 6 days or 6 weeks.
Yes, and that's also a credit to our volunteer board. I mean, our board are also employed in organizations. They have day jobs, but their ability to quickly come together when we said we need to make some quick decisions, and their commitment to the organization to be able to do that has been incredibly important throughout all this.
Phenomenal.
Yes.
So the of course in the Leadership Cafe we're stopping and talking with leaders about leadership. So I'd be intrigued from your perspective. I mean, you've got quite a interesting and varied background. Is there anything that you think you went through as an experience before that helped you prepare and adjust to 2020?
Well, that's a great question. I think as a nurse and as an oncology nurse, much of the career path does have that dealing with the unintended, the unexpected. If you think about somebody who today is in their life moving on, and then tomorrow they get a diagnosis of cancer, the disruption that cancer causes in a person's life, and as a nurse working with those individuals, and understanding the support, the education, not only the treatment. There's a whole environment around the patient. So when you then take that up to a system level, if you will, from an individual level, then looking in terms of the sustainability of the organization, but also then the staff in the organization and caring for them. And I think you've probably heard from others in the cafe, working remotely, and we have remote staff. We have staff who work in other states. We have for our local staff, we do have opportunity to telecommute a couple of days a week, but it's so different to be day in, day out with children at home because of the school system. And so for our team, my executive team, it's not only about ONS, it's about the people of ONS. Yes. And I'm fortunate to have a very strong leadership team. I believe always in hiring people smarter and better than yourself to certainly take organizations forward into a higher level. And our team has worked incredibly hard, making their tough operational decisions, but also supporting their staff and us making sure we're listening to what the experience of staff are.
From continuing on this leadership theme, working remotely creates, as you said, all kinds of different challenges among your leadership team. Yeah. What have you seen them do to strengthen their own leadership and to, again, I want to use this word pivot, if you will, that allows us to, for them to begin thinking differently? I mean, did innovation come into play here? How did you see them do things, and were there things that you did to foster their own leadership development?
That certainly has been a part of our journey in the last several months. for one thing, we put in place, okay, we're going to do a check-in Monday at the beginning of the week. What are we looking at? What are critical elements? We have a routine standing 2-hour meeting, but this is a quicker check-in. It gives us connectivity on a routine basis, just on quick things. It also allows us, if we're reading things, seeing reports on trends, hearing things, whether it's from the human resource specialty, the clinical specialty, business. And that's one of the things that I think for all of us, we started reading and bringing to the table from different pockets of information. To really look at, okay, when we're looking at our current situation, what's the environment, the bigger context around us, what can we see from it? What's happening not only in what's happening in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County and Pennsylvania, but even beyond that when we're making decisions. So I think that's been very important. We as an organization, we really have great support for staff in terms of continuing education, and that's been very important at the executive level in terms of their continued growth and development as well. And this year, again, everything's gone virtual, so it's been slightly different, but we continued to support our staff who were seeking academic degrees. We continued that. We didn't cut that out of the budget. We've done some other kinds of things in terms of development of staff. We've worked with the Luma Institute there in Pittsburgh on design training and design thinking. We launched over about 1.5 years ago a Center for Innovation, and that center has it's a catalyst within the larger organization in terms of innovation, and that team and members across our organization have really done some great things, and some launch of new products coming out. One just got released this week that will benefit nurses and in their clinical practice with patients.
So that's keeping a focus on the future. It sounds like we can get so tied up in what's in front of us right now, but we've heard pretty consistently from leaders the idea of it's important for us to keep things in perspective, that this too shall pass. So let's make sure that we come through this maybe even stronger than as we came in. So
I think that's a great point. You do pay attention to the trees, but you also have to watch the forest. Using an old analogy, but we definitely have, and I think that's where, when you've got a strong team of leadership at the executive level and also at our mid-manager level, who can really say, okay, if we have to choose between A and B, how do we make that choice? Because we do have some limited capabilities right now, and I think that's where we have really excelled in the last few months, and I do credit my executives who work then with the mid-managers in the front line in terms of the decisions that are being made.
Did you change your decision-making process, or you anything in particular there, or just something that you felt you were good at already, so it was a benefit?
Yeah, I think we've been working on this as a leadership team. I think there's always work to be done in terms of your organization, but we've really we brought in a couple of years ago resources on project management. We have a dedicated project management office now, a team.
A PMO. Great.
Yeah. And so, it's in times like this that the rigor of that process really shows the benefit of itself. We've made a commitment with much of our work to be cross-functional, which gives opportunity to staff. That there's obviously some work that is solo departmental work, but really with our projects looking at, wait a minute, let's be more inclusive at the process, bring in some talents from other parts of the organization, and then with the project management rigor, moving projects along. So
Excellent.
Michael and I like to use the notion of intentionality a lot, that you have to be, intending to take these actions and not have them by happenstance. And even your Monday morning check-in, it kind of creates a new habit of people coming in, and I'm sure there's some time for personal sharing there as well as business sharing. And these are the things that, we all need under these circumstances. And then when you have an innovation center and you have a project management, these things make a tremendous difference in really creating efficiencies, which I think is pretty, had a great deal of foresight in relationship to what we're going through now. Obviously it was intended to just serve the needs at the time, but now you really see the benefit of it.
Yeah. Even when we were in person for years, we've had what we call a staff connections team. This is a group of staff that volunteer, on an annual basis. The committee is put together, and they do like the opening of baseball season event, the chocolate fountain for whatever, and the different kinds of celebrations throughout the year.
Oh, great.
To bring staff together. Well, one of the things they did, we're on Microsoft Teams right now, and one of the things they did was create a water cooler in Teams with some different channels for people to contribute to, and that has been really wonderful to see. This is the connectivity you miss by not being in person.
Right.
In fact, we also have a group of staff that do a twice a month newsletter that got launched in January, just before we all had to go to our homes. And again, it's got a combination of essential information to know, but also all the fun stuff, the wedding pictures, the new baby pictures. One of the things I was talking with one of my executives, and we were talking about, when all of a sudden you realize somebody's pregnant, you don't see them, so you don't know, and people don't necessarily on a Zoom call say, "Hey, I'm pregnant," kind of thing. and then the next thing you see is a picture of a baby, So these kind of connectivities have helped with the human side of what's happening right now in our organizations.
Yeah, that's another trend we've seen through the Café here. And also we did some global research with a colleague around looking at how employees are perceiving their company's responses to the COVID. And luckily these are enlightened companies, so that it was very positive. But one message that came out of that is, I'm being communicated to very well, but I feel like I've lost my voice that I had. So your connectivity methods and opportunities for people to not only hear, but also to speak and say things. That sounds like a great tool.
Yeah. It's done well.
Yeah. Well, great. So one thing that we've been asking through the program too, we read in the paper what the pandemic has done to us. But we've been asking leaders to maybe think about it a little bit differently and say, what has the pandemic done for you? Is there anything in particular for you personally that comes to mind to think about what the pandemic has done for you?
Well, on a personal level, I think it has allowed me to refocus some of what I value, that sometimes in the very busy executive life, if you will, you can lose sight of. And some of that is self-care. And, we preach that to our members. And we talk about resilience and self-care, and sometimes we don't model that ourselves. And that is something that by working from home and not on the road like I would normally be, going, different places for meetings and into DC for activity there. I have I have a bike, that means I get to actually use that, and get some exercise. And, there are just things like that in terms of self-care. Yeah, that I think, and we talk about that even with staff, the importance of that, because it is easy for the day to slip along and be Zoom after Zoom or team meeting after team meeting, and be screen time all day long. So yes, That's one of the things that
Yes.
the pandemic has done for me, reorient a little bit.
Reoriented.
You're so there.
Yeah. Well, Brenda, I want to thank you for joining us here. My 91-year-old mom is a retired nurse, so I've got a very soft spot for nurses. But I'm also a 5-year survivor of cancer. So thank you for the work you do. Personally, I'm very, very excited about that. So, and I'm sure some of your members helped me. So that's very cool.
Oh, well. Thank you. You look like you're doing very well.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel fantastic. So
yeah, great.
Well, again, thank you. To say thank you from both Richard and I, will send along a copy of our new book, Strategy Driven Leadership, the signed copy for you. So we have your mailing address. So thank you for that. We'll get you off as soon as Richard and I can get together face to face and sign them. We'll get it to you. But we also want to thank our sponsor VACO for helping us with the Leadership Cafe. You know that this has just been, actually for me, and I think Richard too, it's been fun. The things that we've learned, the people we've met, it's been very, very, very innovating and very enlightening. When the podcast will be published, we get them out every 2 weeks on a Thursday, every week on a Thursday. And that'll be posted on our website, my website, Richard's website, on the VACO website, vaco.com. And of course, it'll be posted in LinkedIn, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. We sure want to thank our producer and director, Michelle Jarzewski, who has been working in the background here and providing really amazing support. So for all of us at the Leadership Cafe, thanks for joining in. I'm Michael Couch.
And I'm Richard Citron, and we look forward to connecting with you on the next Leadership Cafe. Thank you, Brenda.
Thanks.